There are moments in pop culture that stop you completely. Moments where you're watching something unfold in real time and you realize, quietly, in the back of your mind, that you are witnessing something that cannot be easily explained or categorized. The BTS 2.0 dance practice video is one of those moments. And at the center of it, standing exactly where he has always stood, not just because the choreography places him there, but because the energy of the room simply bends in his direction, is ParkJimin. You already know the story of the comeback. After nearly 4 years of silence as a group, BTS returned in March 2026 with their album Erarang, and the world responded in a way that almost defied comprehension. Records shattered, charts collapsed under the weight of their return. The Gangwon concert drew millions of live-stream viewers. The Tonight Show performance at the Guggenheim Museum became one of the most talked-about television moments of the year. Erarang became the most streamed K-pop album in Spotify history within days of its release. This was not a comeback, it was a reclamation. BTS was back, and they were making sure everyone remembered exactly why they left such a permanent mark on the world in the first place. But if the Erarang album era has taught us anything in the weeks since its release, it is this: records and chart positions only tell part of the story. The real story lives in the detail. It lives in the choreography. It lives in the practice room. And when the official 2.0 dance practice video dropped on the Bangtan YouTube channel this April, ARMY collectively held their breath, and then collectively lost their minds. Because what they saw in that practice room was not just a group of artists rehearsing a song. It was a masterclass delivered in casual clothes, under flat studio lighting, on a hardwood floor, with zero production value beyond a wide-angle camera pointed at 7 men who are simply built differently from everyone else. To understand why this particular video struck such a nerve, you have to first understand what 2.0 is as a song. It is the 5th track on Erarang, produced by Michael Made It and Plus, co-written by RM, J-Hope, V, Jungkook and Suga. It is a fast-paced, high-energy track built on strong beats and rhythmic momentum that feels almost aggressive in its intent. Where Swim, the lead single, was fluid and introspective, 2.0 is sharp and confrontational. It does not ask for your attention, it takes it. And the music video that accompanied the song leaned fully into that energy, drawing direct inspiration from the iconic hallway fight sequence in Park Chan-wook's 2003 film Old Boy. 7 men in suits and leather jackets stepping out of an elevator into a dark corridor, facing down a crowd of opponents, and choosing not to fight with their fists but with their bodies. With their dancing, with their music, with the kind of synchronized force that makes you feel something physical in your chest. The MV was stunning. Fan reaction was immediate and explosive. Keywords like 2.0 Jimin, Gang Leader Jimin, and Dance Jimin trended across X within hours of the video's release. Within 30 minutes of going live, the video had already accumulated 1.6 million views. And when the dance practice video followed, it did what great practice room footage always does. It stripped away the cinematic polish and asked a simple question. Can you actually do this? Can you deliver this level of presence and precision when there is no atmosphere to hide behind? When there is no lighting, no styling team, no camera direction? Can you walk into a room in streetwear and still command the entire space? For Jimin, the answer has always been the same. Yes, without hesitation, and without effort that reads as effort. What separates Jimin as a dancer is something that is genuinely difficult to articulate to someone who has not spent hours watching him move. It is not simply technical precision, though his technical precision is extraordinary. It is not simply flexibility, though he trained in contemporary dance before becoming a K-pop idol, and that foundation lives in his body in a way that never fully disappears. It is something else, a quality that choreographers and performance scholars sometimes describe as presence, but that word still feels insufficient. It is more like gravity. When Jimin dances, the space around him seems to rearrange itself to accommodate what he is doing. The formation makes sense because of where he is in it. The dynamics of the group shift in response to his energy. Other performers, even extraordinarily talented ones, exist in relation to the choreography. Jimin exists in relation to the feeling that the choreography is trying to produce, and that is a fundamentally different thing. In the 2.0 dance practice, this quality is visible from the very first formation. The opening sequence of the choreography demands a kind of controlled aggression. sharp angles, deliberate weight transfers, movements that are designed to feel heavy without becoming labored. Most performers in this style choose one of two approaches. They lean into the sharpness at the cost of fluidity, making their transitions feel mechanical, or they prioritize fluidity at the cost of impact, softening the edges until the choreography loses its tension. Jimin does neither. He is somehow both completely sharp and completely fluid at the same time, executing each movement with a precision that feels inevitable rather than practiced. Every position he lands in looks like the only possible conclusion to the movement that preceded it. ARMY noticed. They always notice. Social media lit up with slow-motion edits, frame-by-frame breakdowns, and reaction compilations that pointed to specific moments in the practice video. The way his upper body isolates independently from his lower body during one particular sequence, the quality of his eye contact with the camera, even while executing technically demanding footwork, the moments when he appears to add texture to a move that, on paper, asks for nothing more than straightforward execution. Fans who have been watching BTS for years and fans who discovered them only recently through the Ararang comeback both arrived at the same conclusion. There is something happening when Jimin dances that does not happen the same way with anyone else. It is worth noting that this consensus extends well beyond the ARMY community. The broader K-pop industry has long acknowledged Jimin's position at the upper echelon of idol performance. The combination of his contemporary dance background, his years of training under one of the most demanding entertainment companies in the world, and the particular intensity with which he has always approached performance has produced an artist whose physical vocabulary is uniquely his own. His approach to movement is grounded in emotional truth in a way that is rare in any performance context. He is not executing choreography so much as inhabiting it, and the difference is visible to anyone paying attention. The 2.0 choreography itself deserves recognition as one of the most ambitious pieces BTS has performed as a group in recent memory. The demands it places on all 7 members are significant. The formations are complex, the transitions between sections require both individual precision and group synchronization at a high level, and the overall energy of the piece has to be sustained through multiple intensity peaks without the performance ever feeling like it is running on empty. This is hard. Anyone who has ever trained in any form of dance knows that sustaining this kind of output in a practice room setting, without the adrenaline of a live audience, without the support of production elements, with nothing but the music and the movement, and the awareness that the camera is recording every imprecision, is a different kind of challenge than performing on stage. Every member of BTS meets that challenge in the practice video. This is important to say clearly, because the conversation about Jimin's exceptional quality in this context is not a conversation that diminishes his bandmates. J-Hope, BTS's dedicated main dancer alongside Jimin, brings a joy and a technical foundation to his performance that is irreplaceable. Jungkook's power and charisma in the 2.0 practice generated its own wave of fan reactions, including his TikTok challenge video that surpassed 5.9 million views. The group's overall synchronization, the thing that has defined BTS's choreography since the beginning, is on full display here, and it remains one of the most remarkable things about watching them perform as a unit. But watching the practice video carefully, with genuine attention to what each performer is contributing and how, reveals that Jimin is operating on a level that is difficult to quantify and impossible to ignore. There is a specific quality to how he handles stillness that deserves particular mention. In choreography that is built primarily around movement and dynamic energy, the moments of stillness, the pauses, the held positions, the transitional beats, can easily become nothing. They can be the spaces between the important things. For Jimin, stillness is never nothing. In the 2.0 practice, even in the frames where he is technically not moving, there is a quality of contained intention in his body that reads as more active than some performers' most animated moments. He is always doing something, even when the choreography asks for rest. The body speaks even when it is still, and Jimin's body speaks clearly. What makes this even more remarkable is the context of where Jimin is right now as an artist. The 4 years he spent away from BTS as a group were not years of rest. They were years of serious artistic development. His solo album Face, released during the hiatus period, demonstrated a different side of his artistry, more vulnerable, more lyrically direct, more willing to sit with discomfort. and the growth he showed through that project, through his approach to promotion and performance during that era, translated into something visible in how he carries himself in the 2.0 practice. There is a confidence in his movement that goes beyond technique. It is the confidence of an artist who knows himself deeply, who has spent time alone with his craft, and come back to the group with more of himself to offer. You can see it in the way he occupies space, in the way he initiates movements from his core rather than his extremities, giving everything he does a sense of being driven from the inside out rather than performed from the outside in. It is the difference between an artist who is showing you a dance and an artist who is taking you somewhere with it. And if you pay close attention to how Jimin interacts with the other members during the practice, you will notice something that rarely gets discussed, but that is absolutely central to what makes BTS exceptional as a group. He listens. Not in a passive sense, but in the way that the greatest ensemble performers always listen, actively, continuously, with his whole body attuned to what the people around him are doing and how his own movement needs to adjust in response. There are moments in the 2.0 practice where you can see him micro-adjusting his spacing, his timing, his energy output, based on what is happening in his immediate vicinity. He is not simply performing his part. He is performing his part in relation to everyone else's part, treating the choreography as a conversation rather than a series of individual statements. This is the quality that distinguishes a truly great ensemble performer from a great soloist, and Jimin has always possessed it to a degree that sets him apart. Great dancers exist in groups. Artists like Jimin make groups into something greater than the sum of their parts. Watching him hold that space in the 2.0 practice, giving and receiving, leading and following, asserting and yielding at exactly the right moments, is one of the quietly extraordinary things the video contains that most viewers feel without necessarily being able to name. It has been 4 years. 4 years since ARMY watched all 7 members on a stage together. 4 years since the practice room footage reflected a group rather than individuals preparing for solo work. 4 years of waiting and solo projects and milestones celebrated separately rather than together. And now here they are, back in the same room, moving in the same directions, building something together again. For ARMY, watching the 2.0 dance practice is not simply a viewing experience. It is an emotional reunion. Every frame of it carries the weight of those 4 years. Every moment of synchronized movement between 7 people who spent years apart is proof that something survived the hiatus and came back stronger. And Jimin, in the middle of all of that, in the middle of this landmark moment in BTS history, in the middle of a choreography that demands everything from him, in the middle of a comeback that has already broken more records than most artists accumulate in a lifetime, Jimin looks like he was built for exactly this. Like the 4 years of separate work, the solo album face, the individual growth, the personal challenges documented and undocumented, like all of it compressed into something that he carries in his body and releases every time he dances. He looks, in the plainest possible terms, like someone who has found the specific thing that he was made to do and is doing it at the highest level it has ever been done. The 2.0 dance practice video is a document, not just of a choreography session, not just of one song from one album in one comeback era. It is a document of what it looks like when an artist reaches the kind of mastery that stops being about skill and starts being about truth. When the movement is so deeply integrated into the person performing it that the question of whether the dancer is executing the choreography or the choreography is expressing the dancer becomes genuinely unanswerable. That is what Jimin achieves in this practice room. That is what the video captures. That is why it spread the way it did, why it generated the reaction it did, why ARMY across languages and time zones all arrived at the same conclusion in their own ways and their own words. Some artists perform. Jimin communicates. And in a practice room in Seoul in April 2026, on a hardwood floor under flat lighting, wearing casual clothes, he reminded the entire world that there is a level of artistry in what he does that exists in a category essentially by itself. That is what it means to be in a class of your own. Not better in the ways that can be measured. Not faster, not more technically complex, not stronger. Better in the ways that matter most. More present, more honest, more alive in the movement than anyone else in the room. Jimin has always been that. The 2.0 dance practice video simply gave the world 2.5 minutes of unfiltered, undeniable evidence. If you have not watched it yet, watch it. And if you have already watched it, you already know exactly what we are talking about. You felt it the first time the video played? That thing that happens in your chest when you watch something and understand, without being able to fully explain why, that you are watching greatness. That feeling is the whole story, and Jimin is the reason it exists. If you want to see more content like this, deep dives into BTS's performances, breakdowns of what makes their artistry so extraordinary, and all the latest from the Ararang era, make sure you subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell. We are just getting started with this comeback, and there is so much more to cover. Leave a comment below, and tell us which moment from the 2.0 dance practice hit you the hardest. We read every single one. See you in the next video.